Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Hey, I have made the long trek up here into Canada at my friend Gord's place, and we're going to be jumping on the motorcycles, and we're going to be doing a loop through the eastern maritime areas of Canada, and I'm really looking forward to this ride. Join us. As we get ready to leave Gord and Shirley's beautiful home here along the Ottawa River, it comes with some bittersweetness. And in that Roy was supposed to join us on this particular trip, but right before we were ready to go, he came down with COVID. Luckily, it was a mild case and he was able to quickly get over it, but nonetheless, it disrupted the trip for him. So he's just going to have to watch the videos just like everybody else. We head east along the Ottawa River, and then we cross over the Ottawa River at Hawkesbury and get to a road that's just on the north side of the river. There are some beautiful homes and farms along the Ottawa River here, and I would definitely consider this route a scenic byway. We passed several of these groups of Can-Ams on this particular route here, and there's no question that the weather this time of year is motorcycle riding time for Canadians.
This is the Carillon Dam. This is the dam that's downstream on the Ottawa River from where we live, and it's basically what decides the level of the water on the uphill side. This is a Hydro-Quebec project. It delivers power continuously throughout the year, and depending on how high the water gets with the spring melt coming off the hills in Quebec, they will open up as many of the sluice gates as required. They can flow as much as 4,000 cubic meters per second, which is the equivalent of about 100 Olympic-sized pools in a second. That's how much water can come through here. During the floods that we had in 2017 and 2019, there was actually water was shooting close to 100 yards straight out through those chutes because there was so much water pressure backed up behind this dam. There is also a lock that allows pleasure craft to descend to the lower level and proceed onwards downstream to Montreal, which is only maybe 25 kilometers away by boat. So it's a real significant landmark in this area. It certainly has a lot of effect on the lives of people upstream. It also has a lot of effect on the lives of people downstream, because if they let too much water down there, they get flooded. If they hold too much water uphill, we get flooded. So it's a very delicate balance, and they work it pretty hard all year round.
Here you can see the lock and the canal that allows pleasure boats to transit the Ottawa River past the dam here. It's a unique feature, but it makes it a huge recreation area for Canadians.
J'ai pris une chance parce que tu sais, je me disais c'est chapeau, je crois.
Oh oui, on commence à parler le français, mais Québec,
J'ai pas beaucoup d'amis
c'est normal.
anglophones, tu sais, hein. Surtout dans les petites régions au Québec, là,
Oui.
il y a des gens là. Tu sais, comme moi, j'ai vraiment un anglais de base. Okay?
Oui, oui.
Puis quand j'étais au primaire, oh,
Oui.
tu es bilingue?
Oui, oui.
Non.
Gord had a wonderful conversation with this gentleman who was vacationing in his RV with his family. What a nice chat we had, and what a really nice fella he was. It was nice to have bumped into them. When we left, we wished them well and headed down the road. I believe it's worth mentioning at this time that Gord is bilingual. He speaks English and French fluently. He grew up in Montreal, so he had a tremendous amount of exposure to the French language and culture. And Shirley also's first language is French. So he's gotten very good at it, and it played out throughout our trip when we were in the Quebec province. In order to get through Montreal, we jump on the highway here so that we can start to transit through the island of Montreal. It was a little bit of a pain to get through Montreal because traffic was start and stop and not going at a very good pace. One of the reasons that the pace could be pretty slow in areas is because you have to make hay when you can for road repair in Canada, so that's during the summer months. And in this particular case here, there was a crash. I hope nobody was seriously hurt. I think Gord was trying to avoid some of the traffic, and we ended up taking a little tour through some neighborhoods in Montreal. One of the things that's unique in Montreal is that at every intersection there's a stop sign. So it isn't until we get back out on the highway that we can really start to catch up and make some pace. Montreal is an absolutely huge city, and I think it's probably maybe the second most populated city in all of Canada, and certainly the largest city in the Quebec province. And it's fun there, but if you're looking for really interesting metropolitan areas in Quebec, Ottawa would be my first choice. Then Quebec City would be my second, and then Montreal third in place. Montreal is a very modern city and has all those conveniences, whereas Ottawa and Quebec City have some old style charm. In this first leg of our trip, Gord was on a personal mission to return an item to a friend of his that they had forgot at their house when they were visiting. So it was a little side trip, but it was a super nice area. One of the things I got to do on the way out was as we ran right by a BMX event. Here it is. And it was fun watching those kids out on the bicycles out there. It was a huge event. And what a great opportunity for these kids to be able to compete in that. After taking the highway that gets us out of the Montreal metropolitan area, we're finally heading east toward the U.S. border and into more hilly country. We'll end up our ride today basically along Maine in the U.S., and it'll be our strategy to go around the edge of Maine all the way into New Brunswick. What was nice about the planning of this trip is that Gord did all of it. It took a huge load off of me that I'm normally responsible for, and so it allowed me to sit back and enjoy the scenery and the sights a little bit more than normal. I had been really excited about this particular trip. I had looked forward to it for quite some time. And during the planning stage, Gord and I had gone over places that we had both been to at some time or another. And so when he was planning the route out, he tried to plan it in such a fashion that would take us to new locations that neither one of us had ever seen. Since Gord had home turf advantage here in Canada, I talked him into doing a description of the map at the end of each day. He'll provide a lot of information that you might be interested in, and I think it'll be quite informative for you to listen through his description of our route and the day's events. Well, we're having supper at a place called Harvey's here in Quebec province, and Gord assures me these are like the best burgers there are, so we're going to give that a try here. We went probably about 250 miles today, and we're in a town called Lac Megantic, and that's the French name for it. I can't do the translation on it, but Gord does speak really good French besides English. So he's helping out here with that translation on all the names.
This is a recap of the first day of our great adventure to the east. I just want to give you a sort of a feeling of where we are, where we started and where we got to, and what part of the world we're in. Right now, we're in Quebec, Canada, but we started in eastern Ontario, Canada. And for anybody who knows that, just to place you on the map where we are positioned right now, this is Ottawa, this is Montreal, and this is where we finally ended up today, just off the main border in the United States. So today,
We started off at 9 o'clock this morning. We trundled across a little bridge into Quebec. We followed the coastline of the Ottawa River on the north side in through Montreal. We encountered a great deal of traffic in Montreal. That took about an hour and a half longer than we thought, but we finally popped out at the bottom of the south part of the island of Montreal, went across a fairly nice bridge, came up to the north, and then finally jumped on this highway and went through into the region of Quebec known as the Eastern Townships. We proceeded along this major highway just to expedite our transit into the Eastern Townships, and then made a nice strategic turn at the right time to come in and sort of get into some of the back roads and secondary roads to our final destination called Lac Megantic in Quebec. This area was really interesting for us because we found that the terrain was really enjoyable to ride. It was rising and falling 1,000 feet or so, and it was also twisting a little bit, so it made for an interesting ride. The only thing I'm going to caution you is make sure you have lots of gas when you get into this area, because there aren't a lot of gas stations on the way.
Well, we had a great day on the motorcycles, and we went through some beautiful scenery here toward the tail end of our ride today. Well, that's it for today. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care.
It's not. Am I supposed to see something here?
No. Keep going.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jeez.
No, you're all right.
I don't know what I'm looking at. I can't see. Oh, okay. Sorry. You can edit all this shit out.
Yeah, I can edit it all.